This Sunday on Press Pass, a presidential election that will surely go down in the history books just 2 days away now. It's estimated more than 80 million Americans have already voted, whether that be by mail or in person during early voting. And the two presidential candidates are making a sprint to the finish, with President Trump and Joe Biden holding rallies in key states right up until Tuesday. So joining us to weigh in one last time before Election Day, members of our Decision 2020 political panel, Radio 570 WKBN host Ron Verb, publisher of the Buckeye Review, Dr. Mike McNair, and 21 News managing editor Justin Mitchell. So excited to see you guys. And boy, all of this talk all year long, and here we go. So I want to talk to you just about the fact that we are just 2 days away now. And I'm wondering what you think about where the polls stand. They really are showing that Biden is ahead in a lot of key battleground states, but they're tightening up as well. So Ron, I want to start with you. What do you make of where we stand right now?
You know, I have absolutely no prediction on how this is going to turn out, and I don't know that anybody does. I mean, you hear everything where the polls show Biden is ahead, but President Trump has the enthusiasm that's out there, so I can't make a prediction on how this is going to turn out. And I can't tell you whether or not these people standing in line are standing in line to vote for Joe Biden or if they're getting out to vote for Donald Trump. I just think it's incredible the amount of people that have voted already, and the interest that we have in this election. It's obviously a very hot election in a very divided country. Should be an interesting Tuesday, or maybe Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, whenever we find out the final results here.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are wondering when that will be. Mike, what do you make of the huge turnout right now?
I think the enthusiasm around this election is incredible. And I can make a prediction that Joe Biden will win the popular vote. Now, whether he wins ultimately is another story. It might be a hope for me, but the truth is, if we look at 2016, things change very rapidly. What I'm encouraged by is not only the enthusiasm, but the trend. Think about the trend, because the trend from 2016 actually extrapolated to a lot more turnout in 2018. And in 2018, a lot of races flipped in the direction of more enthusiasm. So with another, 1.5 million more in Texas and more people voting in all of the different states, I think the Republican Party as a whole has some issues to face.
Justin, what do you make of the turnout right now? Do you also think, Justin, the recent police-involved shooting in Philadelphia, I mean, this is a battleground state. Does that do anything to change the turnout in that state as well? I'd like your insight on both.
Well, I mean, what I make of the turnout is I can't make much of it because of the pandemic. Normally, I would say this massive turnout is probably, like every time an incumbent is on the ballot, it's a referendum on them. So if you see a whole lot of people turning out to vote, it's not generally good news for them. But you also have a pandemic where people turning out early to vote just means that they're maybe afraid to go out on election day. So I don't know you can read as much into it this time. And there is something of a mix, at least in a lot of places. Now, as for the situation in Philadelphia and race relations in general, it is certainly on the ballot this time. Quite frankly, the situation in Philadelphia is the latest in a long, long history of things that segments of our community have been trying to get into the national conversation for 40, 50 years. And we started really seriously having that discussion this year about things like systemic racism and about, a seat at the table. And that's definitely on the ballot. I don't know that Philadelphia adds or takes away from it, particularly because Philadelphia is in a battleground state, but Philadelphia is not a battleground. Philadelphia is solid blue.
Right. I'm wondering if you guys think that may be a needle mover in terms of having, racism in the conversation this time around, or if you think it's more than that, maybe the last debate and also some of the things that came up with both of the candidates sounding off on the issues where we could actually hear what they had to say. I would like Ron and Mike also to weigh in. What do you think is really playing into the election this year and people's decision on their vote?
A couple of things. First, on what Justin was bringing up, I think that these situations in Philadelphia and other places can have an effect, incidentally, on the vote. When people see looting and lawlessness, I think it upsets a lot of people. And I think deep down, most Americans don't support a lot of what they see and are concerned about it. And that might help the Trump voter be more motivated to get out, or the undecided voter to say, maybe I'm not supporting some Democratic philosophy that's opposed to bail and has seems to have a favorable opinion of how some of these liberal Democrats have been running these communities. I think that definitely helps people on the conservative side, so that can be an effective help for them to get out and motivate them to vote.
What about the issues that were brought up during the debate, though? You know, Mike, I'd like for you to weigh in. We have a lot of local voters that were listening to some of the things that they mentioned and where they stand on the issues. I know oil and gas drilling, that's something that came up for Pennsylvania voters. Here in Ohio, you know, we're always listening and trying to figure out what's happening with the economy and the rest of the industries that affect our area. What did you take away from some of the last remarks they made and what we're seeing into the final days here of this race?
Well, I think in the final days, particularly for African Americans, we care about being safe. You know, I just want to respond to what Ron said because, you know, people think about looting, right, as if that is an answer to killing, right? So kill black folks and we kill a building, and that's like, oh, I hate the fact that you're killing those buildings, but we've been killing us, you know, and that's and while it's true that people are struck by the fear of, oh, that's a bad thing. The truth is, those neighborhoods are black neighborhoods, and they're speaking out of frustration. And it's not just what's going on in Philadelphia. It's happening in Kenosha and St. Louis and all over this country, not just for the last 40 or 50 years, but literally for 100 years or the whole time of our country. And so people are very much exercised about that. And that's why I think, you know, if you read the tea leaves, why people are going after the black vote, right? They're trying to suppress the black vote. The robocalls to Cleveland, to Chicago, to Philadelphia by Republicans trying to scare people from voting. And now let's bring guns to the polls too and intimidate people too. This Republican playbook is very, very clear to be anti-American. I think it's anti-black, but it's also anti-women, it's anti-gay, it's anti-American. That's my opinion. Like I said to Ron, I think I'm gonna, since it's Halloween, I'm gonna dress up as a Proud Boy and go for, but I'm not sure what to wear.
Just as a side note to what Lindsay was saying, though, when you're talking about fracking in the energy industry, listen, I benefit from that. Everybody benefits from it. I'm paying $2 for a gallon of gas. I'm paying low prices to heat my house. If we do away with fracking in the energy industry, those prices are going to go up for my own home and on everything that I buy. And I think the idea that that's an alternative or that's going to hit or connect with people in Ohio or Pennsylvania is ridiculous. I think we all benefit from low energy prices and the independence from the Middle East. I think it's a huge mistake that they're making when they're talking about eliminating fracking or downsizing, if you will, when it comes to fracking. We're all going to pay more for everything we buy because those costs will all be passed on. Just like Lindsay, when they talk about raising the corporate tax on business and bringing that up. Well, businesses don't pay tax. It's the consumers. Whatever product that you buy or whatever service you buy, those are passed on to you. So these ideas, I think, are going to cost everybody much more money in what you're mentioning taking place.
Now, it does sound, though, like when it comes to the issues, that this is really reflective of what's happening in the polls. Justin, if you look at what's happening in Pennsylvania, it's really quite tight, and you can see that both campaigns are focusing on it. They have events this whole weekend, both campaigns. Pennsylvania looks like to be one of the hotbeds for maybe turning this race if Trump can win them again. But at the same time, it looks like even Ohio, they're giving some attention to that later on in the campaign. I wonder if you thought that was an oversight by both campaigns and what you think may happen in both states here in our valley.
Well, I think both states, well, there's a handful of states that are really, really electoral college voter rich. So you're talking Ohio with 18, you're talking PA with 20, and then the other two that I think have to be part of the conversation are Florida at 29, and believe it or not, Texas at 38, which I can't believe is a battleground state, but appears to be. And what it's going to mean is, look, Trump likes to say that he won a huge victory in 16, but the truth is it was a very narrow margin. He won 306 electoral votes, which means he had no margin for error then, and he has no margin for error now. As a result, he could win Ohio, Florida, and Texas, and if all those look red on election night, those might be close to final, and it won't mean anything, and we're not going to know anything. PA, we're not going to know for days. But Biden really can't lose PA. Well, I'm sorry, he can lose PA if he stitches together a lot of smaller vote states. So as for the attention on Ohio and PA, you really want to look at the counties, and particularly the red counties. Trumbull County went for Trump by 6 points. Donald Trump could win Trumbull County again and probably will. If he wins it by 4, watch out. It might actually mean he's in trouble because Biden needs to chip away in some of those counties. Columbiana County was something like 65 to 20 something in favor of Donald Trump, which means if you see he's winning Columbiana County by 50%, well, that doesn't mean a good thing for Donald Trump. You want to look at that. Joe Biden doesn't need to flip a lot of counties. He needs to shave away margins in these places. And he has more paths because he's got a running start in the Electoral College. And that's the case, between the GOP and the Democrats every election cycle. So those are the things I'm watching for. I'm watching for any of those states looking like they might flip blue, because then you're going to know something election night.
I hope so. So your predictions, Verb, you're not sure? Is that your final prediction of who will win?
I'm predicting either Joe Biden or Donald Trump will win this election.
Oh, you're playing it too safe. Mike, you tell me. Who do you predict?
I'm predicting Joe Biden will win the popular vote, and we hope there's no violence from the Proud Boys and the Tougaloo Boys and Ron Verb and the boys. So.
And Justin, it's up to you if you want to share it because you do the news on the managing editing side, so I'll leave that up to you. Do you want to step in? Nope. Not touching that with a 10-foot pole, and I don't blame you. It is a heated race right now, and all likelihood we could be really waiting a while on a few states, including Pennsylvania. So I really appreciate your time this morning. Always great to hear from all of you and your viewpoints. It's wonderful we can share all of them here in one place and still get along in the end. So hopefully we have a nice rest of our week, and I will see you guys after the race.
Thank you.
All right.